This episode of Cape Ann Today is brought to you by J&L Welding. We are back once again with Erika from the Cricket to talk all things Manchester and Essex. How you doing, Erika?
I'm doing great, Corey. How are you?
It's just the two of us today again.
I
I don't know.
know. Where's
This happens a
Heather?
lot. This happens a lot, I find.
Let's not read into it.
Yeah. Okay, so right off the top, big doings with the school committee.
Yeah. School committee, we've talked about this over any number of times because it's been going on for a really long time. It's a long story. So let's start with the top news, which is that the mask mandate is being dropped for when kids come back from school vacation on Monday, February the 28th. So as soon as they come back, they're going to be coming back to a mask-free school, which has prompted a lot of discussion. More than 200 people showed up. 200 people showed up to the Zoom call for the school committee meeting on Tuesday. So here's, a lot of them came for the budget, but let's start with the mask mandate.
Yeah.
So 2 years it's been going on, right? Nearly 2 years. Kids have had a mask mandate. Even before remote learning started, they had it. So it was a big deal to drop it. They followed the state's guidelines. The state dropped it first. Let's remember that Manchester and Essex both dropped their town-wide mask mandate like several weeks ago, like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it's following in that vein. So here's the deal. They're going to come back from school. There was a lot of pushback from people who said, well, why do it then? It's kind of not a smart time to do it because kids will have just gotten back from a lot of travel with vacation, right? So they're traveling with their vacation, they're seeing a lot of new people, and then they're getting back to school and it's maskless. So it didn't feel right to people. But, Joanne Seaman, who's the school nurse over at Manchester Memorial Elementary School, she's been around for maybe 25 years. People love her and they really trust her. She got on and said, listen, I feel like the timing is fine. It's really safe. They're going to provide testing kits for everybody as soon as they return. They're hoping everyone will take advantage of them. They can't force people to do it, right? So they're going to make them available as soon as you come back and then the week of the return. And then also there's a lot of mask things that are going to stay in place. For instance, if you test positive, you have to go home for 5 days for quarantining. And then when you return, you have to be masked until day 10. So there's going to be masking there. There's masking on buses, by the way. You get on a bus for a bus route, you have to wear a mask because that's a federal area. The bus is a federal area.
No kidding.
A little bubble of Washington. Huh. So, so you have to wear a mask there. And so there's precautions. And then they bent over backwards actually to say, listen, we're not telling you not to wear a mask. Wear a mask if you want to wear a mask. I mean, they had one teacher said, I'm 6 months pregnant. I don't want to come back to a maskless world. And the answer is, if you feel uncomfortable or if you're compromised or anything, don't wear, don't listen. You should wear a mask if you feel comfortable wearing a mask, and nobody should make you feel uncomfortable in doing that.
Ostracized or anything like
exactly.
that. Right.
So that's the thing. We'll see how it goes. I think people feel like that's a little bit of normal, right?
Yeah.
Getting back to normal, which is great.
True. Okay, that rolls right into budget news.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of budget news on a rolling basis because it's still kind of going on. Now, do you remember when we were talking about the fact that, and this, I'll never forget this, being at the annual town meeting last spring in Essex, what happened was the finance committee for Essex stood up and said, we're not going to support the school committee budget. It was like a revolution, and it took everybody by surprise. It took me by surprise. It was a big, show. And this was a long time in coming. The finance committee was saying, we want more transparency with the budgeting process. We really want a seat at the table, even though they already have a seat at the table, but they want a seat at the table at the very, very beginning, not when the first draft of the budget is. So anyway, the last time we talked about this, it's a $29.85 million budget. And they had been working very hard, the school committee, to meet with and sort of reach out to the finance committees of both Manchester and particularly Essex. and the BOS. And I went to a couple of meetings back in the fall, and things were a totally different tone. The finance committee, Ben Buttrick, who's the chairman, and Guy Bradford, who is from the BOS, who's very school committee oriented and came from the finance committee. They both were had really evolved their position, and they were saying, we understand this is tough. Let's do this for another year and then get down to business. Let's do this in a realistic way. And the tone was a lot more productive, and I was very encouraged by it. So what they did was they set a 3.5% increase as the goal, and that's apparently the goal every year. Manchester and Essex are both like, that's good. If you're like net plus 3.5%, we're good. Well, the last meeting when we talked, Avi Urbis and Pam Bodwin, the superintendent of schools, she came in with a budget, and they had clipped it down and made a lot of tough choices, and they had come in just under that 3.5%, right? You think good news. Well, this Tuesday, Ben Buttrick and Guy Bradford, they're all on, and they say, we appreciate that all the spending cuts you did, but our assessment for the district is 4.9%. I think it was. If it's not 4.9, it's like 4.85. Like, you know what I mean? Don't quote me, but it's close.
Yep.
We need it to be, in order to avoid an override, we need you to come in at 4.1. There's more we need you to do. So that was a surprise. And then overlay that with Joe Jneck, who's this music teacher at the middle and high school. Everybody loves him. He's just amazing. He's the band director. They want to cut music. He's like talking about, don't cut music, don't cut language, don't cut this. Like, there are things that are being cut. And so you're just listening to it. It's hard to listen to. So that story's not over. It's going on. It's really going to kind of go right up. And this, by the way, makes it a blessing that Manchester is delaying its annual town meeting. You know how last week we talked about that?
Yep.
Because that's sort of the deadline, and it was supposed to be, I think, April 4th, and now it's going to be no earlier than April 25th. And Essex, I believe, is scheduled for May the 4th. So that's around the time we're talking about. It's getting down to the wire. The finance committee's meeting with Essex. There's a lot of meetings taking place. I have a feeling the next school committee is going to be one to listen to. Gotcha. And I think that happens on March the 1st, by the way. March the 1st is the next school committee meeting. So there you go. That's what's Erika, going on in Manchester.
Yeah, it's a lot. And so is there any word yet on Manchester's town meeting? They started talking about dividing it into 2 sessions now. Is that still on the table?
It's definitely on the table, and it's probably going to be resolved at the next meeting. That's my guess. And the question there is, it's not a question of whether it's going to be in 2 nights. It's how it's going to be in 2 nights, because it's either going to be in 2 successive nights for the same town meeting. So you say, oh, town meeting went till 11:30. It's not going to go till 11:30, but it goes till 11:30. We'll continue it tomorrow night. Now, back in the day, that used to happen all the time, actually. I remember in the 90s that used to happen back in the day. Mm-hmm. But this time, what they're talking about is because of COVID, and because they think that the participation drop is so bad on a 2-night process, they want to have a separate town meeting that would be technically a special town meeting. Right? They call it a special town meeting. Yeah. They would call it that, but they would have it, say, in June or May, something like that. It would be in close proximity to the annual town meeting. It would just be technically a special town meeting. So that's the choice. It's definitely going to be 2 nights, though.
Interesting.
And they're going to decide that at their next meeting, which is also, I think that's also like on early March. So.
All right, that's a lot. Okay, great work as always, Erika. We'll enjoy your week, and we'll catch up with you on the other side of the weekend.
You too. We'll see Heather on the other end, right?
Yeah. Bye for now.
Bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.